conversational agenda for you, me, and the people who want to discuss matters of importance in their country. We also have the lifestyle segment where, of course, Angie comes in to give us the health tip of the day, which is quite important for you and me who wakes up every morning, be it 4, be it 5, be it 6, depending on what time you wake up to go to work. What is your healthy routine? And if you do not have a health routine, then what exercises do you do, or what food do you eat in the morning before you come to work? Remember, we have been told ever since we were in school to the time that we started growing up to when we started working, and our doctors told us that the best meal or the most important meal in your life is breakfast. So what you eat during your breakfast determines how the rest of your day will be. So Angie takes us through the process of the health benefits of what we ought to eat and what we ought not to eat during these stressful times of COVID-19, of the election petition, and of very many other things. Now, in the lifestyle segment, of course, we also have the interior decor tip of the day. Now that takes us, of course, to looking at how to make your house more beautiful. When you're living healthy, you also need a healthy space to live in. But my interior decor tip that will always be the one for me, of course, is having green plants in your house. To ensure that you have a green plant in your house, it grounds you because you won't be moving from one place to another knowing that there's no one in your house to water those plants, and you also know that you're growing something, you're grooming something. The feeling of being able to grow something is amazing, and then you're bringing the outdoor to the indoor, and that means there's fresh green grass for you to breathe, fresh green air for you to breathe, and that makes your life and your health better. And then there are other things, of course, in the lifestyle segment, and that is the personality of the day, and the other part that I love, the book of the day. And then later we have, of course, the sports updates that comes in at exactly 8:30 towards the end of our show. And in the middle of the show, there comes a time when I engage you in discussing what we are talking about in these studios. See, your views are quite important to what we are talking about in this particular studio. Monday to Friday, I'm usually with Sam and Chris, but on Tuesday, it is supposed to be with Carol, and she will be here shortly as we continue with the program and as we await her arrival. Now, moving forward with what is happening yesterday, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, just like we read for you in the dailies, met, of course, Mr. Yang Duche, the member of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, and they discussed a number of things, including the investment opportunities that China has in Uganda. Now, we know that Uganda has not been discussing with China alone. Uganda has been trying to, of course, try and make it more favorable for African Americans in the U.S. to come to Uganda and open up more businesses. And we've seen that STV has interviewed a number of people who have come in that regard, and they have said that they're interested, one, in the pipeline project that we're building in Uganda, and second, they're interested in the agricultural sector of this country. Now, we're waiting for the investor who will say they're interested in IT and making sure that internet usability is better in our country, Uganda. We know that internet was shut down during the elections. 3 days to casting polls, internet was shut down, and we're hoping there's someone who will come into the country, one, to teach us, the country in general, the importance of internet. 2, how to become a job creator using internet. And 3, how to control the usability of social media without shutting down internet as a whole. Because as we are speaking, the concept of marketing online, or what we call online marketing, is growing in Africa, and a lot of people are embracing it. And that means when it comes to a time when we feel like we need to shut down internet, then we have a problem with these online marketing platforms that we have created. Now, the Chinese, we know, have invested in Africa for a very, very, very long time, and they've employed a number of people. But as me and Simon Chris were discussing yesterday, here's what we ask the government to do. As they're bringing in investors, they ought to make them train Ugandans on how not only to become laborers and carrying those goods, but to also be managers in these companies that they're opening up. Now, continuing with, of course, the stories that ran in Select News at 9 and Select Yenjaulo is, of course, the KYAGULANYI petition that I'm very sure will be on the top pages of every daily newspaper that we'll be looking at. And then lawyer Stephen Kalali filed a suit before the Civil Division of the High Court at Twed Towers, Kampala, and also Uganda Journalists Association has joined Stephen Kalali in filing a suit in, of course, Twed Towers, in asking that journalists need to be protected. There has to be a rule, a mandate that is put in place where journalists are protected when they're doing their job. They say it is not enough to take or punish 7 of those people that were named as the people that beat journalists in Kololo on 17th of February when they escorted, or they went to cover the story of Robert KYAGULANYI as he went to take the petition of gross human rights violations in Uganda by the Ugandan government to the UN Human Rights Commission. Now, their journalists were beaten, and of course, the story was taken aboard, and Kalali went to court yesterday saying that there ought to be a law that protects journalists, and Uja is joining Kalali in taking that particular story to court. And we also know that the Forum for Democratic Change also brought out their voice in saying enough is enough. We ought to stop mixing the police and the army. When the police has a mandate of doing its job, the government has to let it do its job, and when the army needs to do its job, let them do its job. But they say these two people need to be separated and they cannot be mixed. He says the deployment of army to control crowds during the Kololo UN Human Rights Commission where Robert KYAGULANYI went was wrong, and that was the work of police, not the army. And also, of course, the sad news that we cannot go without speaking about it, and that is the death of Luca Atanasio, the Italian ambassador to the Democratic Republic of Congo, who was killed together with his driver yesterday. May their souls rest in eternal peace. And we know the DRC Congo has been one of these places in Africa that has been warring for the last few decades, and it has not stopped to date. President Museveni is one of the people that is trying to deal with the conflict in DRC and calm it down and calm down the rebels. They're having talks, but seems like not all is going according to plan, and that's why when Yoweri Kaguta Museveni said there will be a road that is built from Uganda to DRC Congo to enhance business in Uganda and DRC Congo, a lot of people were scared about the insecurity in DRC Congo spilling over to Uganda, but the president said there is no need for us to worry about that. Now we'll go straight forward, of course, to the newspaper reviews of the day and see what is happening in the papers. And of course, as we're discussing that, we know, of course, the main stories that is making the headline is the KYAGULANYI petition withdrawal. And we can see that as the first story, of course, on the bigger page with the picture of Robert KYAGULANYI trying to make a statement. And the story says the inside story of the case withdrawal of Robert KYAGULANYI. And when you look at the story, they say that these are some of the reasons why Robert KYAGULANYI withdrew his petition from the High Court. Now, some of the reasons that were put, I'll have to open the paper, of course. My producer forgot to open it for me. But if you look at the story that they're talking about of withdrawal of Robert KYAGULANYI's petition, and when you see the Twitter page of NRM, one of the things that they're talking about is the fact that NRM is celebrating and saying that now that the petition has been withdrawn, President Museveni is unchallenged and his victory is unchallenged. However, with a few lawyers that we spoke with, they told us that it is untrue. President Museveni is actually not entirely unchallenged because according to Section 61 of the Presidential Election Act of 2005, Section 1, subsection 1, it says that only the court will give a go-ahead for this particular election petition to be withdrawn. Bobi Wine has already said it publicly in his offices in Kamocha, as he was addressing journalists, of course, and members of NUP. He said they will be withdrawing the case and taking it to the court of the people. And to quote KYAGULANYI's word, he said, "We have decided to remove our case from Oweny Dolo's court," and that's what he calls it. "We shall now take the matter to the court of public opinion, but we are not opting for violence." Just like Museveni sought to challenge the victory of Obote in 1980 and later withdrew the case and chose to go to the bush, we have also sought the same since the circumstances are not any different. He told journalists, of course, yesterday in the NUP headquarters in Kamocha. Now, like I told you, according to the Constitution, the Section 61 of a Presidential Election Act of 2005, subsection 1, unless the court okays it, Robert Kyagulanyi cannot withdraw this election petition. And also subsection 2 says that any other presidential candidate who wants to take over from where Robert Kyagulanyi left, they can do so and still go back to challenging President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now, looking at this, they say one of the reasons that Bobi Wine withdrew his petition is refusal by Justice Chief Oweny Dolo and 2 other justices to recuse themselves from the team hearing the petition. Robert Kyagulanyi said there was a time in one of the cases of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni in an election petition as well, where Justice Oweny Dolo was one of the lawyers of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And he also said that apart from being a lawyer of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Justice Oweny Dolo was also under the parliament of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. The second reason, according to the paper, is Chief Justice meeting the president for at least 3 times since the election petition was filed challenging Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And he says that this puts Justice Oweny Dolo at a prejudice of being on the side of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. We're in the middle of a case. How do you meet the president 3 times? However, Justice Oweny Dolo says the time when he met the president recently, they were swearing in judges, and that's the reason why they met, not to discuss the election petition. But Bobi Wine says he doesn't trust that. And also he says the alleged arrest and detention of some of his key witnesses in the presidential petition, and a number of reasons that he gives, and all that, of course, is in the stories. You have it in page 3, 4, 5, 6, a whole lot of pages with this story. Now, moving forward, when we look at From the Archives, because you know that From the Archives is always there in the papers, we have a section of the Republic Street in Mbale town, and it looks clean and it looks really good. And they say on January 29, 2000, and Mbale has since evolved into a business hub and is among the towns that was elevated to a city status last year. I won't forget to applaud and say that Arua is also, has also been upgraded to a city status, my home, my town. Moving forward, we have today in history, Samogere calls for crime records, and that was on February 23rd, 1985. And then we have the first white clover flower blooms in Uganda, and that story is also there. Now, moving forward with what exactly is going on in the papers, of course, the other side, that is page 3. We have why I am withdrawing poll petition, the reasons. There are very many reasons why Robert Kyagulanyi is withdrawing it. And then Bobi's case raised queries about court opposition. Now, all that story is here with Justice Alfonso Oweny Dolo's picture. And we also see that as you move forward, there's also another story of why Bobi is exiting poll petition and what's next after he exits this poll petition. And we see that we also saw the story of Uganda-China meeting, and China gives Uganda 300,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines. We see that the president himself looks like he's clapping in the picture that is on the paper, and he seems excited about it, because even before this, the Ugandan government had said that they are only able to vaccinate 20% of the population in Uganda, and they had acquired 18 million doses, and they said that they would start with the most essential people to be treated, and that would be people who were showing signs and symptoms of COVID-19, and of course the health workers who are at the forefront of fighting COVID-19. Now, moving forward, we see Museveni's inner circle got COVID jabs. That's a US paper that talked about it. Now, all these stories and more, you only have to get it and then look at it. And the other detail that was discussed during the meeting between China and Uganda, President Museveni, was China and Uganda also discussed the standard gauge railway, something that we are trying to work on as a country. Now, Museveni agrees to lift DGF suspension. Who knew? Finally. You remember the DGF story, where DGF was shut down because they were bringing in a lot of unaccounted for money in the country. And we know that the finance minister, Matiaka Saija, came out and defended DGF, saying that the money that they bring in has not been used in anything. However, the accusations was DGF was bringing in money that was used, of course, to finance the 18th November chaos that took place in the country, where we saw over 54 people die. And they said, DGF of course came up and said, no, that we didn't do that and it's not true. And Matiaka Saija also defended them. And remember that a lot of CBOs in the country suffered from this setback of shutting down or suspending DGF. And now here the headline for a lot of people, which will excite a lot of CBOs, is that Museveni agrees to lift DGF suspension. Good news coming in from the papers. And then Speaker Kadaga directs MPs on delayed bills. That story is there. And police refused to release list of abducted people. Now, that's another story that is not dying down anytime soon. As Robert KYAGULANYI is removing his petition or withdrawing his petition from court, we also know that he released a number of 200 people, 243 people that were still missing from the numberless drones that took people. In yesterday's papers, we saw a child talking about his father who is still missing till now. And people are asking themselves, what happened to the people who were abducted even after His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni came out to talk about these abductions? They're asking themselves, what next? You talked about the abductions. You released 17 people in Mukono. Where are the rest of our people? When are they coming back home is the question that a lot of people are asking. And we see that police has still refused to release the list of abducted people. And then UNRWA to compensate over 2,000 residents. And we know that that comes with the road construction. And then as we're moving forward, Uganda on track to achieve childhood cancer survival targets. Now, all that and more in your dailies. Get yourself a copy, keep yourself informed, keep yourself updated. And we see 20 arrested in Busia, Tororo over operating illegal clinics. And we also saw a few weeks ago, where some clinics were arrested for selling counterfeit drugs. Now, that story and more, you'll get it in your papers. And then Butaleja boss pledges to fight teenage pregnancy. The talk about sex, the sex talk between African parents and their children, for me, is the best solution to fighting teenage pregnancies, because how do you say no to something you don't know? Parents need to learn how to say the truth about sex, the truth about teenage is not teenagership, but teenage. You know, when a kid grows to a certain age and a certain time, they want to know, they're curious. And if you don't tell them, they will find that information somewhere else. And you also tell them before they find that information somewhere else. We also see that the Lango rival chief says his kingship is still safe. All those stories are right here. And then panic as Lake Victoria water rises again, causing flooding, and over 300 P7 candidates failed to report back to school. And the reason is no school fees. Very sad story that is. We also see on page 13, government flags off construction of Lango Palace. However, For me, the story that got my attention is the fact that over 300 students have failed to go back to school, and those are candidates because of no school fees. And we know that the COVID-19 pandemic that hit the country made sure that a lot of people had very many faults when it came to their businesses and handling their businesses. They had losses, and now we're looking at a time when they have to take back not only their candidates, but also their semi-candidates back to school. I'm not sure how schools are planning on how these parents will pay the school fees. There are other universities and other schools that are asking these parents to pay 100% of the fees or 50% before the students go back to school. But I hope and ask that we all understand that we're in the COVID-19 situation. Even the schools were in this particular situation, and we've all suffered, and we need to come to an amicable solution whereby the students go back to school and the school fees will be completed. I remember in my school when I was in P7, what happened was, if you do not complete your school fees, you do not get your, what we call a university transcript, you don't get your results. And I think that's the best way to do it. But you cannot stop students to sit for their exams because they're owing you school fees. Well, moving forward, there's a picture here where elderly fitness exercise still continues, and we can see a picture of don't worry, you still will be able again to run. And of course, we see Rebecca Kadaga and the deputy speaker is hiding and taking a picture. That's quite funny, and the way they put those two stories together. And we see that prayers without action will not defeat COVID-19. Of course, that's in the opinion section. And there's, of course, the pullout of the Prosper pullout. And that is business for you who wants to know what business to do, what innovations to do, how to do it, when to do it. And then you have the rainbow pullout for your child who is at home and who hasn't gone back to school. The puzzle for some people is the best part of the newspaper. And then in the international scene, millions vaccinated as US COVID deaths surpassed 500,000. We have to thank God that in Uganda, we are still at 333 deaths. And of course, the numbers are not rising, and we hope that they stop at that and they do not rise. And then we see airlines ground Boeing 777s after engine failure. There was a video that was circulating in social media where an engine had caught fire. And apparently, allegedly, that engine is of the Boeing 777S, and they said that the mechanical condition happened. And we know that this is not the first time that the Boeing has had mechanical conditions. And then in brief, we see Myanmar protests amass despite warnings. Trump offered Kim ride home on Air Force One. Iran to stop snap nuclear checks on US dog, and mayor urges Texas to pay residents weather bills. We'll go straight, of course, to the sports section where cricket cranes get a test of the swing, and that is for you who loves sports. We see Lazio target Bayern's scalp, Chelsea to test Atletico metal. Now the stories in sports will come later, of course, when we have our sports commentator come and talk about it, and then later we'll have, of course, Majo come in with sports, and Johnny, they'll come in with sports, and they'll be telling us what is in the sports section. Let's look at the other newspaper and see what stories are different from the first daily that we were going through. Now, when we look at the other paper, we have what petition withdrawal means for KYAGULANYI. Of course, that would make headlines for all the newspapers. And then we have Saleh's aide, ex-UPDF officer, charged with treachery. Now, that story as well is on the first page. Italian ambassador killed in DR Congo. We just discussed it in the morning. Drama as student presumes dead resurfaces. All those stories are there. All you need to do is get yourself a copy and read. And then in the budget section, we see finance issues, 40 trillion budget, curricula. And MPs ask ministry to account for 2.18 billion. Now going into the paper, they have the section of know your member of parliament elect. We see Christine Kaya from Chiwoga, woman MP, and that story, the details are right here. And then we have David Muhumuza from Mwenge North, Member of Parliament. And then we have Noboth Namanya, that is from Rubabo County, Rukunji. Now those are there. And then the numbers, of course, of COVID-19, and I thank them for updating us. We have 40,213 cases. And like I said earlier, 333 total deaths. And then finance issues, budget, curricula outlines key areas. Now, between the lines, reading between the lines, the budget is highly constrained, and as such, I urge all accounting officers to ensure they plan and budget within the available resources issued for their respective votes. Ensure you finalize the key budget documents for submission to these ministries, says Patrick Otielap. Now we'll move forward with Chichoncho, 4 billion more for Lusanja land. And the background of Lusanja land is here, and the story is here, and you can follow up on it. And then we have a sharp drop in COVID-19 cases. A general decline in patient numbers could signify marked success in the fight against COVID-19. However, we also remember that Jen Ruth Ocheng was speaking at Uganda Media Center, and she said that the characteristic of a pandemic is that it first fluctuates and then goes down and then fluctuates again in big numbers. And he says that we should not relax, and we should be able to continue with the practices of putting on our masks and making sure that we sanitize. I have noticed as I move in town that a lot of people no longer put on masks, and people are free to shake hands and hug. And I know that we want to get back to the normal, where everything was easy, where I did not have to put on a mask to go anywhere. Personally, I forget to put on masks all the time, but that doesn't stop me from buying a mask. So this is the cost of forgetting the mask at home. I have to end up buying a mask all the time on the roadside, because everywhere I go, I'm asked to put on a mask before I go into that location. So for you to save yourself the trouble, put yourself your mask in your bag and move with it. And for those who are uncomfortable with a mask that covers the nose and the mouth, there's the colorless mask that covers your face, and you put it on like shades, and you look cool, you look good, but you're still protecting yourself. Now, moving forward, Italian ambassador killed in DR Congo. The details are here, and his picture as well is here. And the KYAGULANYI story, of course, is covering all the pages of the papers. And we also have a story here that says errant judicial officers to face tougher sanctions. The new system is also expected to reduce contact between the litigating public and court staff, something believed to curb corruption in courts. And then Parliament asks Education PS to account for missing 218 billion Ugandan shillings. Now, Alex Kakoza, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education and Sport, said he would task all the accounting officers of the institutions which received money with effecting the committee directives to account for this money. We also see that there's a story about electoral laws compiled into a single book. Now, Byarahanga is signing a copy of the Compendium of Electoral Laws, and the picture is there, and that happened at Mestil Hotel. And he's the commissioner of the Uganda Law Reform Commission. Esther M. Musoke was also available. We also see that CSOs warned against concealing fund reports. If CSOs continue concealing refugee funds, government will take action against them. Now, we also see the Nile countries to invest 24 trillion Ugandan shillings. Rugunda said that many infrastructure projects from this basket of prepared investment are at various levels of implementation, and then over 5,000 Lake Katwe miners face eviction. Moving forward, student presumed dead resurfaces. The story was also in the other daily, and we can see the picture of the student and the parent who looks really disturbed and happy at the same time, and head teachers ordered to formalize their marriages by the bishop of the Central Busoga Diocese, Patrick Wakura, has urged all head teachers in church-owned schools to formalize their marriages before the end of this year. Okay, so there's a rule, whether you want it or not, you have got to formalize your marriage by the end of this year. If you're not, you may not be a head teacher anymore. The rules and regulations of working in a religious-based school. And then we see that activists decry proposed cuts in health budget. They say we don't see any bigger woe than COVID-19 because it has prevented our children from going to school and teachers from being paid salaries and health workers dying left, right, center, and some of them have not been paid to debt. So they said that they condemn the proposed cut in the health budget. And then still in the health sector, government urged to help autistic children. Now, when we move forward, lawyers petition court over assault of journalist Stephen Kalali. We spoke about that story in the morning before we started the newspaper review. And as we're moving forward, EU Parliament. It is unfortunate to say Uganda government used COVID-19 to stifle political competition. EU is accusing Ugandan Parliament of using the COVID-19 funds to stifle the political competition in the country. The EU-Uganda relations are guided by Continuing Agreement of 2000, an agreement guiding relations between it and 78 other countries and the Caribbean Pacific. Remember when the EU Parliament had a session where they were talking about the elections in Uganda, and then the Ministry of Internal Affairs sent a 9-page letter to EU, talking to them about Uganda's sovereignty and the fact that they ought to let Uganda deal with its issues the way they feel safe for them to deal with them. Moving forward, we see a book review. Today they put a book review, and their book review is President Idi Amin, a narrative of his rule from 1971 to 1979. And as we are moving forward, of course, with the papers on page 16, policy regulatory compliance with smart grid technologies in Uganda. Of course, you have the pull-out on school. I can see an English, mathematics, chemistry pull-out for your children who are at home and they need to practice their skill while at home. And then there's a page on page 25 that talks about oil, gas, and infrastructure, and also cases here to rebuild roads that have outlived their lifespan. Moving forward, we see that patching city potholes not a viable solution, not a long-term solution to the bad roads, because every time it happens, there's a pothole, we come back, take care of it, go back again. After 10 years, there's another pothole, we come back, we patch it, and it's not a long-lasting solution. Now we will, of course, jump to the sports segment, where we see Bring On Maxwell, and that is the race of the children's motorbike. And Sekamwa won all the 3 hits in the 50cc category. I don't understand sports that much, and that's why I said I'm going to let the sports analysts come and give you the details on the sports. But we also see that Vipers are confident about their match. Well, we'll close it there with a newspaper review. At least we have shown you a little bit of what is happening and what is trending. And like you saw, the election petition withdrawal from Robert KYAGULANYI is the story that is trending in the newspapers. And maybe we may decide to consider that to be a topic of discussion. However, we have a guest who will be joining us sooner or later for us to discuss exactly NUP and the petition. Now we'll go and take a look at Carol, who was telling us about the biggest diamond mine in the world. And according to the story, in that diamond mine, people are allowed to pay only $10, go there and then mine for their own diamond. Who wouldn't want to do that? I would. I don't know about you. Let's look at that and then we'll be back.
Every day since the mine's discovery, over 33,000 diamonds have come out of this 37-acre field, including 7 of the 10 largest diamonds here. 3 billion years ago, long before plants and animals first appeared in the fossil record, diamonds were being forged 100 miles down the ground. This land was owned by an individual until the state of Arkansas acquired it in 1972 for $6 million. After this, it was open to the public, and though there are many places around the world where diamonds can be found, the crater of Diamonds Park is the only place in the world where anyone and everyone can access one of these volcanic pipes for a nominal fee of $10. This unique situation has elevated the state of Arkansas diamonds on the state flag, and these diamonds have even graced the hand of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The crater of Diamonds Park is secluded in the southwest corner of Arkansas. It is frequented by vacationing families and diamond enthusiasts. The few people who do find the diamonds here come from all walks of life, young, old, first-timers and experts. What matters most is the time spent sifting and searching, a hobby that attracts many people. Some people have literally moved their lives here because of this place. Some of them have been collecting these diamonds for a long time and have jars where they keep them as a means of saving, while others sell them as soon as they find them. In this place, if you are the first person to lay eyes on a diamond, then you have discovered it and it is yours. The process of mining is a bit complex. You have to go out to the field and find gravel, then place it on a sift screen and place it in water where it will reflect from the water. A lot of the diamonds found on this land are small, about the size of a matchstick, which by measurement is a quarter carat. After sifting, the diamond always shines so bright that you can't miss it. It is then taken to the Diamond Discovery Center, which is located at the entrance of the park, where it will be certified, and they will give the owner the size of the diamond, the color, as well as putting it in a fancy box and packaging it. Many of the diamonds ever found here are record-setting, like the Stromagma diamond. This is regarded as a 1 in a billion stone. It is thought to be the most perfect and internally flawless diamond ever found. The 40-carat Angosam diamond, which is the largest ever found in the whole of Europe, was found in this place too. The Esperanza diamond, Stav Mafiswell and the Okidopi diamond, among many others, were all discovered here. The more color a diamond has, the less it scars. And aside from the diamonds, what really makes this place are the people that stay around. Their lives revolve around this place because it is a tourist attraction and brings them income for survival. If you ever wondered how diamonds are mined, this park could as well be your answer once you visit it. Cara Tumwine, this is the Global Exploration.
That segment